Hey guys, welcome back for today's video where I want to talk about the current situation that we have in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary and talk about this topic that we've heard in recent weeks that the centrists, those big Democratic donors, the corporatists, the moderates inside the Democratic Party aren't all that pleased with the current situation that we have, and it confuses me to some extent because this wing of the party, they're even strongly considering throwing new names in there to try to go on and win this thing. And we've been seeing that with Bloomberg looking like he's going to be throwing his hat in the ring and running. When we take a look at the field nationally, somebody that this wing of the party should be happy that's in first place is Joe Biden at 28.3% of the vote, which is around 7 to 8 percentage points ahead of second place Warren and around 10 percentage points ahead of third place Bernie Sanders. Now, this wing of the Democratic Party is very concerned that it's either going to be Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders that goes on and wins the nomination, and they don't want either of those two progressives to be the face of the Democratic Party. They'd much rather have it be a Biden or even a Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Cory Booker. The list goes on from there. But all those other options are in the single digits range and are going to have a hard time really pushing their way up into top contention. And it's a situation where, okay, they feel like maybe they can throw someone in at the last second and they can have success. But we've already been going through this campaigning process for the better part of this past year. There's been 4 different sets of debates that we've had. People have been learning about this very large field that we started with, around 20 to 25 candidates to choose from. So it's been a large field. And after all these debates, this is where we currently stand, where Biden still is in first place and has shown relative strength in terms of hovering around this upper 20s to 30 percentage point range in his national polls. Now, it's strength in the fact that he's not continuing to recede. We've seen where he first started, where he was up over 40 percentage points. He's obviously receded from that point, but Biden has this base behind him, the fact that he was the vice president for 8 years under very popular former President Obama. He has older voters, he has the African-American vote, and that's a coalition that can be strengthened to the point of pushing Biden over the line to get this nomination. So I don't really understand why there's so much concern among the centrists about what's going to happen. Now, I understand Biden's misgivings, the fact that he's not raising very much money. He doesn't have great grassroots support. He's not a great campaigner. He's not very good on the debate stage, and his campaign is limiting his public exposure because of he's just a gaffe machine, and when you have those kind of gaffes, it can hurt you in the polls. But at the end of the day, even with all of this, Biden is still in first place and looks like he will be the best opportunity for the centrists and those big Democratic donors to get somebody that they want at the top of the ticket. So I'm not sure why there's this panic that they want to put somebody else in the field, somebody like a Bloomberg, to try to save the day, when it's not even to a situation where Warren or Sanders are in first and second place respectively. You still have Biden there at the top of the race in terms of the consistently out of the polling that we're seeing. Now, maybe you guys can help me out in the comments section with some more ideas as to why you think the centrists are freaking out. Maybe they're worried about his mental state, the fact that he isn't able to fund his campaign with enough money to really have a strong campaign operation nationwide for this primary. Maybe that's something to do with it. But still, at the end of the day, you can't deny that Biden is leading in the polls and probably the odds-on favorite at this point to go on and win the nomination, with where Warren and Sanders are a strong second and third place, but still needing to close the rest of that gap if one of those individuals is to go on and win this thing. And maybe another wrinkle in this is the fact that maybe Warren and Sanders aren't too concerned with the fact that they need to be first place at the end of this thing. Maybe they're forming a coalition where they feel like if they can combine to get enough pledged delegates to combine those when we get to that first ballot at the Democratic convention, then a progressive could go on and win this thing on the first ballot without having to bring in those superdelegates. So maybe that's another wrinkle in this thing that the centrists are concerned about, where they need another strong candidate to try to take away enough pledged delegates to where Warren and Sanders wouldn't be able to do that on the first ballot at the convention. I don't know. There's just a lot of speculation at this point in time. But to go over and take a look at some recent polls that just came out, 6 battleground states. Now, these aren't huge sample sizes by any means. They're in the realm of around 200 to 300 individuals in the Democratic primary in these key states. But you can see strength from Joe Biden consistently. He's leading in Arizona, leading in Florida, leading in Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and he dips down to second place in Wisconsin. This is a little bit different from a poll that we had out out of a number of these states earlier in the week where it showed Warren pretty much winning every single one. So again, take these polls with somewhat of a grain of salt in the fact that they're very small sample sizes in the 200 to 300 range. But still, at the end of the day, Biden showing relative strength in this set of numbers where he's leading in every single state in the Democratic primary, other than Wisconsin, where he's right there at the top competing with Warren and Sanders as well. And then we just got a poll out of the Morning Consult today where they threw Michael Bloomberg's name into the mix, and he's at around 4 percentage points. Not a whole lot changed at the top of the field, where you still have Biden in first at 31%, Bernie in second at 20%, and then Elizabeth Warren there at 18 percentage points. So it's not like Bloomberg is going to come in here and be the savior for the donor class of the Democratic Party. You need strong grassroots behind your candidacy to have success in caucus and primary season. In Bloomberg, he'll be able to buy a lot of promotion for his candidacy in terms of ads on TV, and I'm sure he'll get a lot of glowing praise from the mainstream media outlets like CNN, MSNBC, and then traditional news sources like the New York Times and Washington Post. But at the end of the day, I'm just not sure that's enough to get somebody like a Michael Bloomberg, who's viewed by a large portion of the Democratic base as part of the problem in the billionaire class, as opposed to a solution, somebody that could go on and win this thing. So it's a fascinating situation that we find ourselves in, where the Democratic donors are so worried to the point where they're throwing out other names, people like a Hillary Clinton to give it another chance, maybe an Eric Holder, a Michelle Obama, a Michael Bloomberg, because they don't feel like Biden could get the job done, where at least if you believe somewhat what the polls are saying, you'd feel like Biden has a decent shot at going on and winning this thing. So I'm not quite sure that I totally understand this situation that we have with the Democratic donors, where they're so concerned about their current standing inside of the party and who's going to go on and win this thing. Now, if it was a situation where Warren or Sanders were clearly in first or second place, respectively, and Biden really dived behind them in the polls, then I could understand a bit more where they were coming from, perhaps. But I'm just not totally sold on this situation that we're in and the concern that they have. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about this topic down in the comments section. And if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. So I hope to see you guys back here for my next video.